The world's toughest prison boot camp. Let's go.
Final stop for most of them, Miami-Dade PreTrial Detention Center, DC Jail for short. A huge rundown old building with room for 1,700 prisoners. But more on that later. Because every few months, the night behind bars begins with a unique ritual. In one of the last existing boot camps in the U.S., final preparations before the guards meet their new recruits.
Once they come off the bus, we holler and scream it. We're gonna line them up. After that we'll lead them up to the upper barracks. That's where we're gonna start getting their haircuts. Then, you can go to protocol, we go to protocol and then stress them. Then be by time to stop it, then time for the shower time.
I like this guy already. He says, then stress them, right? They look like a bunch of former drill instructors, former drill sergeants. This is in Miami, and I've heard these things are pretty terrible for juveniles. Now, this thing, you got to watch. It's 16 months they got to make it through this boot camp, and if they don't, they fall out for any reason, they go to prison for up to like 7 to 10 years, depending on the sentence. So these guys are legit prisoners.
The new inmates are just arriving in court. 37 felons, aged between 14 and 24. They've most certainly heard about boot camp, but now will experience the reality firsthand.
All right, it's game time. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go. Get off my bus! Hey, get off my bus! You need to hurry up! Come here! Get right here! Get the freaking right here! Lock that body up! Get the freaking right here! Get the freaking right here! Hurry up!
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks like one of the tougher boot camp videos I've seen in the last decade. Pretty comparable to the Marine Corps boot camp where they're up and down, back, forward, screaming at you, get off my bus. Minus the female drill instructors to this point.
Get on the bus and hurry up, sit down. Let me tell you something right now. You ain't for your boot camp. Do you understand that? Listen, do you understand that? You need to get a whole lot of goddamn line of me. Do you understand that? How much do you goddamn motherfucker? I'm talking to you. I sir, no, hold on, sir. Sir. You better get a whole lot of sticky line. You get a whole lot of goddamn line of me. I'm talking to you. Sir. Sir. Sir.
A small taste of what the next months are going to be like here.
You already know you freaking leave. All right, sir. All right, sir. Loud in that. All right, sir. Loud in me. All right, sir.
They're getting after them, and I skipped through this video a little bit. I cheated to make sure it was going to be worthwhile. And I was pretty impressed because they don't put up with any shit in this thing. These guys are already convicted felons, most of them. So it's not like it's a slap on the wrist and they're a juvenile. These are grown men. I don't know what the age limit is. I couldn't find that out. But they were in Miami-Dade County Prison, or that's where they were going to go if they didn't do this.
Confuse, shock, unsettle. All to the max. Mission accomplished after only 3 minutes. Tough young guys from 4 different departments of Miami-Dade Correctional Facility brought together for boot camp. A very special experience. No rights, only obligations. For example, the obligation to uniform haircuts.
He's getting all bitter about it, the announcer, but this is guys that go into the military. They join it voluntarily. Look at that haircut. But, you know, it's funny as you listen to this, I'll talk about how terrible it is for these guys, the virtue signaling announcer guy, but let's keep going.
Robert is 21 years old, but old enough for attempted murder and aggravated assault. The boot camp, his last chance to escape regular prison. 16 months of constant drill instead of decades behind bars. younger offenders are given a second chance. But there is a price to pay.
So this guy was going to go away for attempted murder and aggravated assault. You figure, I don't know, 10 years plus. This is 16 months, and he can go back to his normal life. Seems like a pretty good deal.
Constant drill, harassment, and systematic humiliations in exchange for a sentence reduction. Maybe.
Ready, place, do it now. Ready, place. Now stop.
Too many of the boot camp participants can't even survive the first week.
I'm not sure about the systematic humiliations. I mean, these guys are felons. It's better than going to the big boy jail and getting cornholed, right? You sign up to go in the military, you know there's going to be a boot camp phase, right? Kind of a breaking you down so you absorb the military information. Concept, I guess, here is these guys won't become such dirt bags if they have 16 months of military behind them. Question for you guys is, what do you think? Do you think the 16 months is going to change somebody who's going to go back to the same shithole place they came from, probably, with their same buddies that are dirtbags? Let me know in the comments.
Hurry up! Aye, sir. Aye, sir.
Bad prospects for the so-called cadets.
Now look at the eyes on that guy. He looks scared to death. You figure most of these kids, I'm going to call them, young men, have never been yelled and screamed at, told what to do, followed any direction. And this is a good deal for them. 16 months versus 10 years in the big boy prison. They'll come out a worse person after the big boy prison. I think is the way we should do it for people that are fixable, and I don't know how you know.
I knew already what was going on. Yeah, I could do it. I know it's going to be hard, but I could do it.
That's what all of them say, but many won't make it.
Sir, no, sir. Sir, no, sir. Sir, no, sir. Here's the gap. Here's the gap. Aye, sir. Aye, sir. You can put it in. Officer. Yeah. Officer. Yeah.
They have to make it through the full 16 months. Otherwise, it was a useless exercise.
Whatever you're doing, when they say one, you stop doing it, come back to the position of attention. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Jogging place, do it now. Aye, sir. Knees up, knees up, knees up, knees up, knees up. 3, 2, and 1. Yes, sir. You fail to do what I command, you will be punished. You understand that?
I like a empty the cup and fill it back up. You know, check in the description. Since the Army decided to get rid of the shark attack, which effectively is emptying the cup, right? Yelling and screaming at somebody for a brief period. And that's just a small portion of like day one in receiving or day one in pickup day in the Army. But you got to break these guys down, especially these guys with all the problems. In the military, it's the same way. You got a short duration of time to teach somebody skills that may help them in a dangerous situation, a stressful situation. Because you got to think about it. In the military, you got a lot of young people with a lot of responsibility. Example, you could be an aircraft mechanic having to work 16-hour shifts to fix a plane, or in charge of 5 guys fixing planes at age 21. You're never going to be that way in the civilian world. So you see the correlation here at a minimum where we're trying to give these guys the ability to have some responsibility, not, commit attempted murder and aggravated battery.
Meanwhile, the intake of rookies enters the 3rd hour. Continuous shouting, humiliations, distress and distract. Random targeting, singling out the weak. That seems to be the only constant here. Now, it's time for the victim.
Wonder how this guy would do as an announcer for, I'm going to use the Marine Corps boot camp for example. Is it a victim? I mean, in this case, these guys had no other option. They should be grateful they got this versus prison. So I don't know if it's a victim. I think it's the winner of the prison lottery. In the military, you sign up, you know what you're getting into. It's a bunch of young guys that want to test their mettle typically, get some money in their pocket, go to college.
He wanted to sleep. Hey, you came to lay down. You came to lay down. He wanted to sleep. Ain't no doggone high. They keep all that down. Check out his
Push. We ain't done push. Get your knees off my freaking dick.
Now, I do see a big difference. These people are coming in totally out of shape. Like this kid here, he can't even do one push-up. That's going to be a big difference. Like, these guys aren't coming in shape. A bunch of them are drug addicts. So they're coming in, no fitness level. And this guy's on the quarter deck. He's got 3 DIs yelling at him. Fine. Seems about right. But he can't even push. So he'd be in the pork chop platoon. So the 16 months would be 24 months.
Psychological abuse and torment is also part of the boot camp program.
The buzzword of the year, abuse, right? You guys think that's abuse, what this kid's going through or young man's going through? He chose to go to the boot camp instead of prison. Do you think it's abuse, or do you think a 50-year-old man cornhole him's bigger abuse? I don't know. I think I'm going to take the boot camp.
And it won't be the last time. Cadet Giuseppe isn't exactly fit, an obvious sign of weakness. In one of the world's toughest prisons, the worst thing that can happen to you. The officers are on the lookout for any sign of weakness and immediately sniff them out. They've zeroed in on Giuseppe.
For a lot of them, once they first get here, they have a lot of drugs in their bloodstream. They have a lot of alcohol within their system. So after a week of working out, you see that coming out of their pores. And first their body breaks down. Once their body gets tired, their arms get tired, their muscles get tired. But as they continue to push on, you see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I think there'd be a lot of withdrawals, the DTs and heroin and crack withdrawals or meth.
The cadets are still far away from the light at the end of the tunnel. Out into the night on an empty stomach for the first leg. The workout begins at 5 a.m., physically demanding as nothing before.
Unfortunately, I think this is probably the first time they've woken up at 5 a.m., not gone to bed at 5 a.m. I don't feel sorry for these guys. I think it's a great opportunity. You get used to doing something, going to bed at 5 or getting up at 5. It's not a big deal. Was I used to that when I went in the military into boot camp? No. But after a couple of days that I'm waking you up at 0400, you start learning to wake up at 0350. Otherwise, getting out of the rack's going to be terrible.
Today, outside for the first time. Giuseppe and the other cadets are suffering. Sleep deprivation and hunger are part of the program to grind them down.
All right, enough of the whining. So do you think the prison boot camp, they were too tough on them, or they're getting a good break? I think they're getting a pretty good break, to do that for 16 months versus going to prison for 10 plus years. If you don't follow me on Instagram and Twitter, please do, and I'll see you in the next video.